So, Peter, what a great program you've brought for us. It's 3 commissions that you've gotten for the company, 1 world premiere, and it's really a lovely evening. But I want to first talk about each of the works individually before we sort of think about putting it together. So let's start with Benjamin Millepied's piece. I was thinking, watching it tonight, that it has such infectious energy, and you dance it as well, such infectious energy, enough material for maybe like 10 dances, but the layers are part of what makes it so exciting. Could you talk a little bit about what it's like when he started to build it? Did you know right away, like, he's going to keep building and adding and watching it unfold?
When Benjamin came to do it, he was, the first thing he said to me is, he's a little politically incorrect, he said, "You got a lot of pretty women in this company." So I think he sort of built the piece on that energy. He just liked the flirty energy that he was feeling towards the women in the company, but also that the men feel towards the women in the company. So I think it started with that. It started with guys just looking for fun, and then women sort of relating to that fun, and it builds off of that. You see that in the push and pull and the duets. And I think the dancers like that kind of energy.
Well, one of the things that it seems to me is that it also shows how much he loves to dance, because everybody's got really interesting material to do. The men have interesting material, the women have interesting material, but it doesn't feel flirty towards the audience. It feels like there's a sense of community on the stage. Could you talk a little bit about, because I'm sure traffic patterns on Wednesday afternoon a little complicated. You want to say something about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I love this piece. It's really, the energy is great, like you said. You really feel like it's a little more casual, a little laid back, and it really feels like you're just having a good time with your friends. And one of my favorite moments, though, all those patterns you're talking about, we learn it all separately. You're in your small group of 4, and you learn all these sections, and then all of a sudden there's this tornado happening around you when you put it all together for the first time. And I feel like that was a week ago that we really were exposed to that. So yeah, you get, you have all the material down, and then it's, fitting it in the space and, knowing exactly where you need to be. So, to get it to fit into this,
into this space, yeah?
Into the space.
Yeah. I'm glad you said something about it feeling kind of casual, because I am struck by the personality of this piece, that you feel there's a way in which it sort of feels like this is just a regular group of people who happen to be virtuosic dancers. Like, it doesn't have the kind of prince and princess sensibility about it. Could you say something about what it's like to kind of coach that into this work, or to try to access it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It has almost a street vocabulary. Some of it's just walking, some of it's just attitude, some of it's how you relate to another person, pushing off the chest. But I think that makes it fun to do, doesn't it? Because it feels very human.
Maybe because it was done on the company, and I wasn't here the first time around, but there's a lot of the same people there, and I feel like it really suits the vibe of our company. It's friendly, and just getting to dance with your friends like that and be playful, and it's more human, it's more yourself. And I think when you get to add that into your, when you're not playing a princess or something a little more made up and put on, there's something really beautiful that happens, I think, just as an artist, to feel that.
So then it's a very kind of a personality shift with the next work, because the dancers kind of include us in the flirtation when we're in Gaines's piece, it's got a little something that is presentational and has some flourish to it. So, and it's also got tutus and point shoes, and we're delighted to see that, absolutely. So, Peter, could you say something about commissioning this work? Gaines was at the time a dancer in the company, now retired.
Yeah, Kiyon was a soloist with the company. He actually came here to dance at the Pillow the first time P&B came here. I think he was in piano dance. But the piece is really Kiyon. To know Kiyon, he's very musical, very precise, high energy, just sort of energy that bounces off the walls, and the dancers feed off of that. He comes to rehearsal often in matching orange shorts and orange knee socks and orange sneakers. So that gives you a hint of what he's like, and the next day it could be lime green. But he just has one of those personalities. He listened to his teachers well, he studied the Balanchine canon well, and I think you see that. He does his original stamp on it, but it really has this drawing from tradition. And it's really all him, isn't it?
Well, I think there's something I was thinking about, he made that move for his friend. I kind of had that sort of, that he, knowing the company and knowing what they would bring to it. So you were in the company for the creation of this, yeah?
I was.
Yeah. So you want to say something about learning this work, or being in the space when it was happening?
Yeah, it's very much what you're all saying. His energy is so high, and I feel like, if you watch that piece, I feel like you get to know a part of Kiyon.
Oh, that's
And I mean, each movement, I feel like it was cast very carefully. And I was actually, when I first did it, I was in the third movement still, but I was in the core. And yeah, it's just that I feel like it fits everyone's personalities. Whenever I see someone in, you know, a specific section dancing, I think, oh gosh, that's so perfect for them. Like, so I think he did take that into consideration. And knowing us so well, I feel like he really hit the nail on the head for some of those.
The specifics of it. Okay, so then the last piece, it's 3 days old now, so you really have settled into it beautifully. I want to just actually start with Elizabeth. Say something about the process of building this work. So you knew the commission was coming, and you knew. Tell us a little bit about like sort of the backstory.
Sure. I mean, I had the exposure I had to Jessica Lange's work was The Calling, and seeing that, I feel like she has a very, you know, deep. There's something really moving about some of her works.
So you want to say, just describe the...
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So The Calling, it's just a single spotlight, and it's actually done by a man or woman in a very long skirt that kind of traces the edge of the spotlight. It's very soft and very, very moving, and seeing that work, I thought, oh, I just can't wait to work with this woman and see, you know, where things go and, you know, what comes up this time. And I think knowing that and admiring her, I felt a bit more observant of the process. I think I wanted to like key in on, you know, how someone, you know, I mean, art is beautiful in a way because I feel like it's someone, you know, expressing a piece of their soul, and you see, you know, that expression. And knowing The Calling, I thought, oh, you know, I want to see how this woman creates and, you know, what really is behind her work. And I wasn't surprised, actually. It was so methodical, and she has a sense, you know, she closes her eyes and has a sense of what, you know, is calling her and driving the piece or the music or the movement. You know, there's a deep sense in her, I feel like, of movement and what she's trying to craft. And so it was interesting working.
And so important about what it's going to look like,
Exactly.
as much as the action. And so Peter, when does she come to you and say, so I have this idea for this set, and go with me? Like, how did that conversation start?
Yeah, I kept, because we were, it's kind of a mundane reason, but we were trying to do the budgeting for the piece, so I kept writing to her and saying, can you tell me a little bit, like, how big will the cast be? Are you going to use the orchestra? Which I think I sort of required her to use our orchestra, because we have such a great orchestra, and I always like to use them. But I kept asking her for details, and she said, I need to spend a couple of days just mulling this over, and I'll come to it. And then I think it was the day after Christmas, I got an email that was probably the longest email I've ever got, and it was so rich, and it was every detail about what the set will be, what the emotion will be, what the music will be, what the costumes, and I wrote back, I said, someone didn't have any plum pudding. But, it's like, but I love that it was so researched and realized, and it was really a beautiful email, and I'm going to keep it forever. But that, like you said, in the front of the studio, she was doing the same thing in her home over Christmas, thinking about it.
Could you just say something about how you have to have a sort of maybe a sense of improvisation about programming?
Yeah, it's hard to know, especially with the premiere, as you say. Jessica, I did tell her, I said there's a couple of challenges with this piece. It's going to be on a smaller stage to start, and then a much bigger stage in Seattle. I said I also think it's going to go in the middle in Seattle, and it has to be the closer at the Pillow, which is kind of a conundrum for a choreographer to work with that. Originally, I was wanting to open with some Stravinsky, but sometimes my crew comes to me and says, we're not laying the white floor, then taking it up, and then laying again. So I'm like, okay. So we changed the order for the floor. So we opened with 3 movements, which also I thought worked. But I like that these were all made for P&B, as you mentioned. All 3 of these choreographers are under 40, which you don't often see that many young choreographers collected in one evening. And I thought it would have a fresh energy, but also drawing on those great traditions.